And Newsom, in his eternal quest to reinvent himself as a plausible presidential candidate, sit down, you're not going to believe this, he wants to cut health care for illegal aliens. Maybe you don't know this, and maybe I should break it to you slowly if you don't know this, but we are spending over $12 billion of your tax money on illegal alien health care. They started this incrementally. They wanted to give it to children. Oh, you can't complain about that. Then they wanted to give it to the elderly. Oh, the elderly need it. And then it became everybody. Then it became cradle to grave, free health care coverage. Now, the federal government doesn't pay for that. That's Medicaid. So the state government has to pay for the illegal aliens. That's Medi-Cal. Do you know how many illegal aliens are getting free health care right now? You ready for this? Including you soft-hearted, soft-headed progressive dopes. 1,600,000 illegal aliens are getting free health care. And you're paying for it. And I'm paying for it. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to pay for it. 1,600,000? 1,600,000. Can you imagine? You can't get a pothole fixed, but they got 1,600,000 for people who broke the law and came over the border illegally. Newsom is an idiot, an absolute idiot. And now he's bitching about his budget being in the red. Well, of course it's in the red. It's $12.5 billion. It's double what he thought it was. This is how stupid he is. You give out free health care, you're going to get more illegal aliens coming to California. I mean, all you got to do is scroll TikTok if you're an illegal alien, and somebody's going to tell you, go to California. They have a blockhead moron of a governor who's going to give you free health care till you die. And you get sanctuary. So he's not going to let anybody come and arrest you and deport you. And then this blockhead is claiming that his deficit is Trump's fault because Trump's tariffs is going to cost the state $16 billion in tax revenue. Of course, he doesn't say which tariffs would cause that deficit because he made it up. He completely but yeah, he actually blames Trump because he's figuring his progressive supporters are going, yeah, it was Trump. Yeah, it was Trump. No, this guy is spending $12.5 billion on illegal alien health care. You dummy. Get this. A third of Californians, 40 million residents, are covered by Medi-Cal. Wow. That that is available to you if you make $21,600 or less as an individual, or $44,000 family of four. But then they added the illegal aliens, 1.6 million, and the federal government doesn't cover that. So his idea is not to kick anybody off Medi-Cal, but he's going to freeze the illegal alien enrollment program. So no new illegal aliens. And of course he's going to do that because Trump already shut the border down. So there's very few new people coming to the state and signing up. Well, I'm gonna freeze the program and shut it down. Good timing. 4 years too late. Dope. And he's also going to charge them $100 a month in premiums. So they're $100. Can you imagine getting health care for $100 a month? What are you doing following the law? What are you doing paying taxes? Do progressive people ever feel stupid that they pay for this stuff? Does it ever occur to you that you are getting bent over and ripped off for some absolutely insane, nonsensical, weirdo ideology? 1,600,000. Gee, why do we have a housing shortage? How much land space do you think an extra 1.5 million people take up? I don't understand. Why is there a housing shortage? I don't know. Extra 1.5 million people who hardly pay any taxes. And they hardly pay any taxes, which is why they're on Medi-Cal. So Newsom is just shocking people. It's like he's backing off on he's not backing off on his plan. Nobody's being kicked off. Just no one new can sign up. But there is nobody new to sign up because Trump shut the border down. All right, we come back. Michael Schellenberger, his website's public.news. He's got a piece on why Newsom is the worst governor in America, and he can support this. Talk a lot about homelessness coming up and Newsom's role in exacerbating significantly the homeless problem here. And I hope he runs for president. I want to talk now with Michael Schellenberger, who we've had on the show a number of times. Great writer. He's actually my favorite writer on news and politics, especially here in California. And he's got a website that you should subscribe to. It's called public.news. A lot of his original writing and some others as well. And what he spent some time on this week is, we had these two people on the show some weeks back. He's talked today about Fool's Gold. It's a book by Susan Crabtree and Jed McFadder, and it is a whole review of Gavin Newsom's political life. And I've read some of this book, and we had Susan on. And what Michael has done is really honed in on what Newsom did to contribute to the massive homelessness that's overtaken much of California. Let's get Michael Schellenberger on. Welcome. How are you?
Great, John. How are you?
Very good. I really do enjoy your newsletter, your news site.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Quite a bit, and I highly recommend everybody subscribe to it. So you focused on in this particular post the other day was how much Gavin Newsom contributed to dramatically increasing homelessness and crime here in California. Talk about his policies which created or amplified homelessness, just made everything worse over the last 20 years he's been in office, going back to his days as mayor of San Francisco.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and I think a lot of your listeners will understand this, but the policies have essentially incentivized homelessness, drug addiction, untreated mental illness, which are at the heart of the problem. 3 numbers for you that really stand out. He has spent at the state level $37 billion of our money to make the problem significantly worse, a 24% increase in homelessness in that period since he took office in 2019. And he's increased violent crime to 31% above the national average. These are just the straight numbers. The latter number on crime comes from a liberal think tank called the Public Policy Institute of California. So this is an extraordinarily bad record. It's incredible to watch him basically prepare to run for president when you've just got this very simple to understand data showing how he made homelessness and violent crime worse at great cost to the California people.
What specifically did he do to make homelessness and crime that much worse? What policies?
It's a few things. First, it's essentially subsidizing housing for addicts and people that are mentally ill and not taking their meds without requiring sobriety or some sort of compliance with medical care. The studies that have been done for decades show that that's the opposite of what addicts need. What really works is to make housing a reward for ending your hard drug use, for ending your drug use. It's called contingency management. It's actually the only form of treatment that's proven to work with uppers. There is no sort of medical synthetic alternative like methadone or Suboxone for meth. It really works because it creates a positive incentive to get better. By giving away housing to people without any requirements of change of behavior, you are basically rewarding self-destructive behaviors, and then the people are dying of fentanyl drug overdose in these little, crummy motels and apartments, although sometimes they're The newer ones are very luxury, but nonetheless, you're just abandoning people to these rooms to overdose and die. That, you would also say, these Soros-funded efforts to basically allow open-air hard drug dealing. You have to remember that Gavin Newsom opposed the legislation that 70% of us voted to pass last November that increased the penalties for fentanyl drug dealing. So I don't know how Newsom's going to spin this to the American people, but it is the worst record of any California governor in our history, and Gavin Newsom is the worst governor in America.
Why? I mean, the guy's a rich kid from the Bay Area. You have photos on your page of him dressed when he was 24 years old. Thick, lush hair, slick suit. He's with his friends. They're opening one of his Plump Jack wine shops. And I'm looking at that photo. It's like, how did this guy fall in love with so many destructive policies that lead to so much death in the streets? There's something incongruous between looking at the photo and then reading your description of his policies below that.
I mean, John, it's such a great question. I'm so glad you saw what I saw in those photos. So these are photos of him with the Gettys. That's the Getty oil fortune. That's his original patrons. They basically, so his father was sort of the main lawyer to the Gettys. He helped them to get all sorts of tax benefits. He actually changed the law in California. So Gavin Newsom was identified early as essentially someone that would be a political tool for the Getty family, the Democrat Party, the left broadly in California. And he was groomed. And I just love those photos because you just see he's just got these movie star looks. I mean, I think the reaction from everybody was that, and this is somebody that could memorize. He had dyslexia. He was very good at memorizing. So he's just, I mean, it's cliche to say, but he is genuinely a puppet. He's not a thoughtful person. He's not a deep thinker. He's not a skeptical person. So the policies he's implemented are just the policies that people at the Soros Foundation and the Hewlett Foundation and the liberal foundations want and thought would be good. It's also ironic. The Getty family has had serious problems with addiction, like many affluent families, and they should know that you have to intervene. You have to hit bottom. You have to raise the bottom, intervene to get people that are addicts the help they need. The left has done, and then we can talk about why that is, but they basically did everything that would make addiction and mental illness worse. They did it. Gavin Newsom did it, and he did it because they told him to.
And now that it's clearly a massive failure, they just keep doing it. That's the part I don't get. I mean, if they're true believers, they thought they were saving the world with their good intentions. Well, it's a disaster. So do something else.
Well, you just said it right there. I mean, so when you divide the world into victims and oppressors, as they do, all addicts, all homeless on the street, all mentally ill people are categorized as victims. These are first principles for Democrats in California. To victims, everything should be given and nothing required. That's fundamental. So, arresting somebody for breaking the law, arresting a so-called victim for breaking the law is viewed as an act of oppression. Mandating treatment to somebody who just keeps overdosing, 12, 13 times. The attitude is that they would rather have them die on the street of a fentanyl drug overdose than mandate rehab, which, by the way, is something that humans have done since Odysseus dragged his men away from the drug-addicting lotus flowers in the Odyssey. We've known that you have to help loved ones in those ways. You have to intervene. They've opposed those things out of this very dogmatic ideology. Now, there's this other thing, though, which is that Gavin wants to be president, and all of his political advisors are telling him that this homeless thing is killing him. It's ruining his chance to be president.
Can you hang on? Can you hang on a moment for another segment?
Yeah, sure.
I want to talk about that when we come back, because you can't look at anything he does without looking at through the prism of he's running really an active presidential campaign. It's clear.
Yes.
Michael Schellenberger is on. He's got a great piece. Public.news is his website. You should subscribe to it, on how Gavin Newsom has created and intensified this homeless issue in California. More coming up with Michael Schellenberger next. We continue with Michael Schellenberger. He's got several great pieces out this week. Gavin Newsom is the worst governor in America. That's the title of one of them at his news site, public.news, which you ought to subscribe to. When we left off, we talked about Newsom's disastrous policies in homelessness specifically. So, Michael, he's obviously running for president, and he's acting in strange ways, trying to embrace right-wing media figures, trying, that podcast he's having, changing, flip-flopping his views. He's got a terrible record, and it's a visual record. You could see, for example, all the homelessness. I don't know how he lasts 5 minutes in a Democratic primary. What is he trying to do? What is he going to do here?
I mean, look, Gavin made a mistake. He listened to the activist left policy people at the Soros Foundation and those kinds of places, and he disregarded the hard political advice that he's been getting to deal with this problem. And that's essentially a character problem. He's a very cowardly person in many ways. He didn't want to go up against all these people around him that sold him on this so-called harm reduction approach, which is essentially the enabling of addiction. And now he wants to run, and, he is taking serious steps. He's changed his position on mass migration. He changed his position on trans in sports. He's now calling for a crackdown, although I think that's mostly just to be able to blame local governments when he runs for president so he can escape responsibility. I mean, that's another characteristic of his reign, is that he's just obsessed with blaming other people for his own failures, or blaming climate change, blaming other things for it. So, it's interesting to see him. I mean, I will say that I haven't seen other Democrats be as strong as he has been in rejecting the really discredited parts of the Democrats' agenda. I think he's a bit too late on homelessness. I don't think it's going to work. But it is notable that, that really, as I always say, while I'm, cynical about it and I don't respect it, it's better when Gavin is behaving like a politician than a progressive Democrat in California, because you actually start to get the law enforced more, and you move away from the really extreme parts of the Democrat Party.
Although he hasn't done much to change policies yet. I mean, he still won't fund Prop 36, for example, which is desperately needed to truly have an impact on crime. He voices grave doubts about men and boys playing in women and girls sports, but he doesn't reverse the policy that he signed. So it just seems to be rhetoric.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's mostly, he's always about doing the minimum in order to appeal to all sides. And I think you're exactly right about that. And, look, I just think the most devastating thing is the increase of one of the most devastating things after homelessness is the increase of violent crime by 31%. California, that happened on his watch. California's violent crime rates were closer to the national average. He pushed them to be 30% higher. I mean, this is after years of the media gaslighting us and Democrats gaslighting us, and him saying that somehow that we shouldn't believe our eyes and that really that crime wasn't increasing, when in fact it had increased quite dramatically and remains extremely high. But no, I think you're right. I think that he didn't have the courage to actually take action at a policy level. He doesn't want to lose that support from the Soros left. That's the thing. That's why he opposed the legislation, Prop 36, that you mentioned. That's why they're dragging their feet to get it implemented. So they're trying to have it both ways. I don't think it'll work. It's a terrible record, and I think really he's been defeated, I think, morally, even though he remains in power.
You talk about one of the reasons the crime increased is when he emptied the jails and prisons during COVID. And I just saw a story in Cal Matters the other day that about a third of the people they let out of prison in one flourish are back in prison, and 30 of them are accused of murder.
Yep, that's exactly right. It's an incredible thing. Not only that, but this new book you had mentioned, Fool's Gold, highly recommended. They had a whistleblower from the prison system who said that Gavin Newsom lied when he said that they needed to let people out of prison for COVID. He just wanted to get all these people out of prison in order to win the support of the Soros types. So, look, lives have been lost as a result of, like you said, 30 lives were lost that shouldn't have been lost because of his reckless and irresponsible behavior.
Do you think he goes through with running for president? Because he's not going to be treated warmly by Democratic opponents. One thing I've noticed, following him all these years, he's never had to operate in a critical environment. Between having a one-party rule in Sacramento and an incredibly compliant news media adoring him, I don't think he's designed to take a lot of criticism. When he gets it, he doesn't handle himself well.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, I think he's definitely running. I mean, that's why he did the podcast. That's why he's having conservatives on his podcast with him. That's why he's been carefully and deliberately changing his position on a number of issues. But I think you're right. I mean, it is the podcasting era. It's the social media era that has been disruptive. It allowed for the election of Donald Trump and a Republican majority, really only made possible by Elon Musk's purchase of X. X is not a friendly place for Gavin Newsom anymore. The media are themselves more skeptical because in some ways they're now following X, which is the leading media platform. But I think you're exactly right. The problem for Gavin Newsom and for really all Democrats is that they need to appeal to swing voters, and those swing voters agree much more with the base of the nationalist populist Republican Party than they do with the base of the Democrat Party. The base of the Democrat Party wants to transgender children. They want trans in sports. They want to make energy expensive. They want to let people out of prison. They want to leave people on the streets to die. That's what the base of the Democratic Party wants.
All right, one more question.
Voters want the exact opposite.
All right, one more thing before I got to go. $8.50 a gallon for gas. If that happens, how's he going to survive that?
It's a great question. I mean, there's a way in which he's kind of still, you see him pivoting a little bit, but the real world has moved so far, so fast in the last year or two, and he's still sort of stuck in that 2020 period, 2019, 2020 period, when climate apocalypse was, maybe the biggest issue in the world. I think he's pivoting. I don't think he's pivoting fast enough.
Good talking with you again, Michael. Michael Schellenberger, public.news.
Thanks, John. Great to be with you.
All right.